Hey, what's up? John Sonmez here from SimpleProgrammer.com. So I got an email today that's a fairly serious email. It's from someone who is struggling with a lot of problems and on a lot of medications. And I wanted to give some advice on this. He titled this email "Lost," and I can see why. So I'll just read you the email and then we'll talk about this a little bit here. So this is from Nichlef. I've not heard that name. It's a pretty cool name. He says, "Good day, John. I'm writing this email to ask you for some advice. I have one passion in my life, and that is programming." Cool. I've had a few challenges on my path to become a software developer, which I've overcome, such as having to drop IT in high school. But I did not let this stop me, and now I am in my second year of software development at university. Okay, cool. A bit of background information. At 7 years old, I was diagnosed with ADHD. At 8, I was diagnosed diabetes mellitus type 1 and was put on insulin injections. I have since then got my blood sugar and weight under control, and I was going well for a few years. Then at age 12, my parents went through a divorce, and I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder and generalized anxiety disorder after undergoing therapy and psychiatric treatment, including medication. So this is a pretty common thing that happens, right? Unfortunately, it's amazing how many people have these conditions, but I won't get into that quite yet. Everything went fine until late January 16, when I went to the hospital with pain in my legs and back 12 times over 3 weeks. Wow. Okay, I was told that I had a knee infection 11 times, but on the 12th time I was rushed to the hospital with shortness of breath, swelling in my legs, and pain in my chest, and was diagnosed with, and I'm going to have trouble saying this one, antiphospholipid syndrome with pulmonary embolisms, deep vein thrombosis, and blood clots in my spine, liver, kidneys, and pancreas. I have been put on painkillers and blood thinners for this. Okay? So, now he says, these days, when I don't take my painkillers, I find walking and standing painful. I don't like taking all this medication as I think it's a crutch, and I don't like using crutches. So I have to applaud you for this attitude. Okay, I mean you've got a lot of stuff going on with you, and still we've got a similar philosophy in life. I don't like things that are crutches in life. Now it's a little bit different in this case. I think there's certain times where I wouldn't call some of what you're doing here a crutch. Okay, because you've got some serious issues that have to be. I mean, like insulin's not a crutch, for example, right? I mean, you're type 1 diabetes, you got to take insulin injections or you'll die. So that's not necessarily a crutch. Every day, this is what I have to take according to my doctors, and I'll try to read through these. It's like Concerta, Novarapid, Lantus, Warfarin, Clinaxin, Serdep, Stilpany, Trimahexel, Omnipom, Antavam, Nexium, Stilnox. I'm given medication to manage the side effects of other medications, which is so common. This is why I don't like psychiatrics, is because oftentimes, and this just is one of the problems with modern medicine today, is that we have so many medicines. The pharmaceutical companies make so much money off of prescribing medications because they'd rather alleviate the symptoms than fix the problem, right? This is a lot of the problem with medicine today, and then they have medications to alleviate the symptoms of other medications, which just, it really fucks people up. I've tried being off some of the medications for 2 months, and everything started getting worse. My pain increased, fatigue increased, motivation decreased, and I slept more. I'm at the point where I don't know how to gain control of my body because I feel like I'm completely out of control. I don't drink, smoke, or do recreational drugs. I meditate for an hour every day and work out for an hour and a half. I'm studying full-time and have a full-time software developer job. My current medical bill per month is more than my salary. Luckily, my parents are helping me with paying for medication and studies. I have just lost control and would like some advice on how I can improve myself. Maybe I have overstretched myself, but I need to be busy all the time. Please don't see me as a victim. I am a survivor. I don't let this stop me. I find a way to succeed, but sometimes I need to get advice or see things from a different perspective. Thanks for your amazing content, advice, YouTube channel, and blog. P.S. You can use my first name, but please keep my last name out of any video. And let me see. If you need any information or would like more information, just ask. So, okay, so this is a tough one, right? So I definitely am against medication, right? I'm definitely against most psychiatric medication, right? Antidepressants, antipsychotics. Well, some antipsychotics are necessary, but I definitely believe that mental health issues are way overly diagnosed. I did a video on ADHD, which you can check out here. I guess probably we should link on this side. And you can check out my views on this. And I wrote up a big blog post about ADHD, talking about how it's my superpower, right? And I've always had this kind of mixed feelings about it, right? I believe that I don't believe it's a real psychiatric condition. I believe that it's a set of characteristics that certain people have in common, right? But I don't think that it's really a condition in many cases, right? I mean, I've been diagnosed with ADHD, obviously, but do I see this as a deficiency or something wrong with me? No, I see this as a way that some characteristics that I tend to have, some attributes, right? I don't believe because there's no, like, what's the cause of ADHD? No one can say. There's not one specific, like, things that are actual diseases or problems with our body or our mind have an actual root cause. And when you can't pinpoint one, right? It doesn't mean there isn't one, but if you can't explicitly pinpoint one, I have to cast some serious doubts on some of those things. So a lot of it with depression and general anxiety disorder. Again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychologist. So I can't give you professional advice on this. And I'm certainly not going to tell you to get off your meds. And I'm going to tell you why I'm not going to tell you to get off your meds. Because I don't know what all those things are doing. Okay, honestly, like, I'm not a doctor. I don't know what all those things are doing. When someone comes to me and they say, hey, I'm on antidepressants, I'm on, because I have depression, then I'm pretty happy to say, get off them. Because I that's generally my stance on that. I know a lot of people don't like that. I know a lot of people disagree with that stance, but I believe that it is a crutch. And I believe that most people, unless you're really severely have something wrong with you, that these medications, that they act as crutches and that they propagate the problem. They don't solve the problem. They just treat some of the symptoms. And I know some of you don't like that. That's fine. You can have a fucking problem with what I'm saying here, but the reality of the situation is that it's far too overly diagnosed, and that just about anyone could be classified as having anxiety disorder, having depression, having not borderline personality, maybe some. I mean, a lot of women could be classified in that category, but being bipolar, I mean, these are like such bullshit things that people come up with, and it's easy. I mean, these are one of those things that, these are like, a lot of people use these as excuses, like quality excuses for why they can't do things in life. Now, I really like the fact that this emailer, that he's not using this as an excuse at all. He says, I'm not a victim. I'm a survivor. I totally agree with that. So I want to give some advice around this. So again, I'm not going to say get off your medications, because there's a mixing of psychological medications and there's health medications, right? I don't know. It's kind of unfortunate that you get diagnosed with ADHD, and then when you're 12, it's like, because of your parents' divorce, you have anxiety disorder and depression, and so now you're on medications for those things, right? And then there's something going on with I'm a little bit skeptical of that, the fact that you have, and it might not be, again, I have no medical I have no medical opinion on this, right? This is just my layman's, thing. But it seems really weird that you would have, type 1 diabetes and then also have this autoimmune disease, or maybe they are connected. Maybe they go together. But maybe also a lot of times doctors do misdiagnose things, and that they sometimes just jump straight to the conclusion of something. So I don't know the full details of that. But here's what I would suggest that you do, okay? I would suggest going and separating things out between what are the psychological medications, okay, and what are the physiological ones. So the physiological ones that you need to, like, stay on those, okay? That's what I would say. And I would say go to who's ever prescribing you the psychological ones, your psychiatrist, I would assume, and say, hey, look, I don't want to be on this shit. I don't want to be on this shit. So, if we got to come up with a plan to wean me off of it, whatever it is, right? This way you're doing it under medical supervision, especially when you're drugged up on a lot of drugs, and figure out how you can start eliminating these things as much as possible. And I'll tell you this, that, and that's where I would start, right? And then I think that you can probably get yourself off of some of the painkillers. I think there's other ways to manage pain. You might want to talk to some holistic medicine doctors that, again, I can't vouch for any of these things, but there is some evidence that suggests that some of the holistic doctors would treat that. They're not interested in treating the symptoms, they're interested in treating root causes, right? I have a couple of friends that have undergone some really good physical therapy and treatments for a bunch of things, including GERD, and they've taken somewhat of a holistic approach. I mean, there's a lot of crackpots and a lot of weirdos out there, so I don't want to steer you in the wrong direction, but I think that would be something that I would be looking at as well, right? To how can I strategically wean myself off of as much stuff as possible? What things are absolutely necessary to keep me alive, and which things could be classified as crutches? Now, with that said, life is going to be difficult. It's not going to be easy to be off of this stuff, right? And that's why I said get off the psychological part of it first, if you can, again, under a doctor's supervision. And I'm going to tell you this simply because, like I said, you've got so much stuff, a lot of things that interact together. You really have to be careful here. This is not just like someone that's like, I'm on, Zoloft, and I'm like, well, get the fuck off of Zoloft, right? There's a big difference here between what you've got going on and they would have going on. And so, my ideal, based on what you described, would be, can you be to a place where you're taking the minimum amount of medication that basically keeps you alive, right? And so, but I'll say this, that this path will be very difficult, and it'll be extremely hard. And yes, maybe you're going to be walking around with pain every day, and maybe some of these things that you're doing to manage the pain or the focus or the concentration, that those things are going to be challenges for you. But if you tackle these things one at a time, you'll strengthen, right? It's like, to me, I think of it this way. It's like if you've ever had a cast, like a cast on your leg or a cast on your arm or something on some part of your body, the cast, it keeps you from, it can let the thing heal, right? And it can keep you from getting re-injured. But at the point where you take the cast off, you're going to be really weak, right? So you're going to have to re-strengthen that. So, for example, if you are on ADHD medication and it's helping you to focus, right? Or even if you're not diagnosed with ADHD, and some of you are on this stuff, right? If it's helping you to focus and you get off of that, it's going to impact you, right? You're going to have to figure out, how to re-strengthen that focus to be able to do it on your own, as opposed to having this chemical that's helping your brain to do this. Does that make sense? So you're going to have to prepare for these things, and it's going to be a struggle. It's going to be a fight. I mean, the fact that you don't have the victim mentality and that you are a survivor tells me that you can win this battle if you're willing to fight this battle. And I mean, from my perspective, if I'm you, I'm fighting this battle, right? It doesn't mean you have to, but if I'm you, I'm fighting this battle, especially when you tell me about your medical bills being more than your salary and all of this stuff. I think that's really, and you're trying to do something else, right? You're trying to become a software developer. I said you've got a job as a software developer, and you're going through university. So this is definitely not going to be convenient. It's going to be a lot of pain. It's going to be a lot of trouble. But I can give you this. I can tell you this, that if you're able to accomplish this, right? If you take on this task and if you go down this path, you are going to develop character. You're going to develop deep character and grit. I mean, you've already developed deep character and grit. I can tell by what you've gone through in life, right? Adversity either crushes people or it brings out the best in them. And in your case, I believe it's bringing out the best in you. And that's great. You don't have that victim mentality. It's really, really awesome. But I think your next step is, like I said, is to see what you can live without. How can you reduce as many of these crutches as possible, but don't just quit them all at once, right? I mean, you got to strengthen these different areas. You're taking off the cast, and then you've got to strengthen this area. And I'm trying to think about how this applies to the general population. I mean, some of you, maybe you're watching this video and you're just entertained by this, but some of you are going to be on medications and stuff. And so I would say this, that, in general, is that sometimes you have crutches. Sometimes you don't even know what is a crutch and what is not, right? And so it's irresponsible to say that I'm not going to be on any medication at all, right? So, for example, my mom has Parkinson's disease, and it's very unfortunate, and it's a very sad disease. But she's often told me that she doesn't want to be on all these medications, but she needs to be on them, right? I mean, she's got to, otherwise she won't be able to function at all, right? And so it's like, there's no guilt there in the case where you have to be on this, otherwise you're really not going to be able to function. And so I would tell you, free yourself from that guilt, right? But just take a pragmatic and practical approach. If you want to be strong, if you want to build your character, if you really want to become the kind of overcomer type of person that you're capable of, if you want to expand your potential to as much as possible, then you're going to have to, start to figure out what are the necessities and what are the things that are assisting you, right? Again, you could say that a wheelchair is a crutch for someone that can't walk. You could say that, you could have that perspective, but that's not a really good perspective, right? Because it's not pragmatic, right? Yes, the wheelchair is something artificial that, you could crawl around on your arms, right? But it doesn't make sense. In the case you have type 1 diabetes, if you don't take insulin injections, you will literally die. So don't worry about those things, but what things can you eliminate? What things, are possible to eliminate, and do that systematically, right? And just know that the path is going to be hard, and the reward for that is going to be that you're going to develop in character. And so I would say that, again, to all of you out there that are listening and trying to figure out how this applies to your life, where it applies to your life is that, this is this is an example of really good excuses. This is an example of really good reasons to not succeed in life, but this person emailing me, he's succeeding anyway, right? But you've got a bunch of crutches in your life, right, that are not really good reasons, right? You've got a lot of stories and reasons that you've made up in your head for why you do things or why you can't do things, right? And so you're using some crutches, right? We all use some amount of crutches in our lives, but it's time to eliminate those things, right? It's time to let go of the help. You don't always need the help. You don't always need the hand, right? When you break your arm, you need a cast on that arm in order for it to heal. But you can't keep the cast forever. You can't use the cast to protect you from any damage ever happening to that arm again. And I think a lot of people, what they do is they get damaged in some way, okay, and they have something, or they need something to get them through. I mean, sometimes painkillers, I hardly ever take painkillers, but every once in a while I do. I do. I've gone through surgeries and not taken painkillers afterwards, but there are some times when you need it, right? But when I do go through, I've gone through surgery, I didn't say, hey, don't knock me out, right? I took the local anesthetic and the general anesthetic, right? I'm not stupid, okay? So, but you can't stay under your whole life, right? Same thing, you can't wear the cast your whole life. So when you're in a very weak moment, maybe you need something, maybe you need a crutch to help you get through, but eventually you need to grow stronger than that crutch. Eventually you need to take off the cast and you need to strengthen yourself, and that's what's going to carry you through life. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say on that. I mean, this is one of those things where it's really hard. It's really difficult for me to give advice here because I'm not a doctor, because I don't know how all these medications interact. I can just say that, from my perspective, if you can eliminate as much as possible to be able to stand as much as you can on your own 2 feet, that's where I would go. But at the same time, you cannot feel guilty about the stuff that you have to take. I mean, you just had a hand of cards that was dealt to you, right? I'm not going to say a shitty hand of cards because other people have had shittier. It's all relative, right? I mean, to some degree, this adversity has made you the kind of person that doesn't appreciate the victim mindset. It has made you stronger because of that. And there's probably a lot of benefits that you've gained by some of the things that have been wrong with your body, right? But don't hold yourself accountable. Don't feel guilty and you got to take insulin injections, or if you do have an autoimmune disease, which, maybe get a second opinion to make sure that is the case. If you've got to take something that's going to suppress your immune system so it doesn't attack itself, and you've got to take some other medications in addition to that because of the side effects of that, and that's all required so that you can live, you can't, you can't blame anyone for it. I don't think you're blaming God. I don't see that in this email. A lot of people would be in that position, but you can't blame yourself either, and you can't feel like this is a crutch or a handicap to you. I mean, I love that you've taken my advice that you don't want crutches. I totally agree with that. I love that you don't have the victim mindset and mentality, but you got to understand that life isn't perfect, and you will need everyone needs some kind of assistance in life, some kind of help. We should stand on our own 2 feet as much as we can and be as self-reliant as possible, but there is a limit. There is a point, right, where you do need help, right? I mean, if you just imagine this, if you were a paraplegic, right, if you got in a car accident and you lost the ability to move, let's say from your waist down, or to move your limbs, you would need someone's help. You would need someone's help or you would die. Like, you would honestly need to have someone to, push you around, put you and take care of you and bathe you and all of these things. And the reason why I'm saying that is because if you can't recognize that, the pragmatic view of this, if you can't recognize that we all need some amount of assistance in life, then if something like that happens to you, if you do need to rely on someone else from a time, and we all do at certain times in our life, then you're going to feel like you're invalid. You're going to feel like you don't belong and that you have no purpose or value in life. And so it's not about what you can do. It's about how much you maximize your own potential. And we all have different potentials. If you're a paraplegic and you're in a wheelchair and you cannot move your limbs, your potential is different than my potential. So your definition of using crutches is different than mine, right? Because what is it that you can do? How self-reliant can you be to your maximum, right? If I have full function of my body and my legs and everything, and I choose to ride around Walmart in a fucking scooter because I'm a fat ass, okay? That's that's a fucking crutch. That's horrible. That's bad. I need to change my life. But if it's something that you can't control and you need someone's help, don't be afraid to ask for the help. Don't be ashamed of the help. You know what I mean? Like, this is not the same thing. So again, like I said, I appreciate you taking my message to heart. I appreciate your viewpoint on this. I wish I could help you more. I wish I could offer you more. But all I can say is that it's a hard road. You're going to have a hard road ahead of you. But you already know that. There's some benefits from that you've gained. Obviously, your character is solid. But there's more. There's more. And a lot of that will come from you just figuring out what, and it's going to be up to you. It's going to be up to your doctors. You're going to have to decide and work this out and decide what things are necessary for your survival and what things aren't, and which things can you, pragmatically, right? But there should be no guilt in this process, right? It's totally different than a person that tries to blame all their problems on someone else and says they need medication and that's the only way they're going to fix their life and all this. It's totally different in this case, right? So you're not using this as an excuse. I don't see you using this as an excuse. Whereas someone uses an even smaller problem that they have as an excuse for why they can't succeed in life. All right, this was a really long video with I hope that there was something useful for you guys. If not, thanks for bearing with me. But I felt when I saw this email, I felt compelled that I need to answer this because I love the heart of this man that has written me and that he will not accept this victim mentality, that he does not want to have crutches. So many people, I think at the very least this is inspiring to if you can relate to this and see that your excuses are not as good as this gentleman's excuses. All right, that's all I got for you today. If you like this video, if you haven't subscribed already, I say it all the time, but click that subscribe button below and click the bell to make sure you don't miss any videos. I'll talk to you next time.